Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Russo, and this is the KO Podcast, episode number 6. We have a great episode to get to. I will be reviewing UFC 276, some PFL, and I will be talking about the upcoming UFC card. We have a great episode to get to. Ring that bell. Here we go. Alright, so getting into UFC 276, our first fight of the card, Stoliarenko submitted Jessica Rose Clark with a nasty armbar. I don't know if she broke it or it was dislocated, but it bent in the total wrong way. So speedy recovery to Jessica Rose Clark, because that was a nasty armbar that she was in. The next fight was Maycee Barber taking on Jessica Eye. Maycee Barber got the decision win. Jessica Eye did retire after the fight, so props to her on an amazing career, and, she will be missed. She was very popular. She was one of the most popular women's flyweights, in the division, I feel. Moving on, we had Uriah Hall taking on Andre Muniz, and Muniz got the decision victory. Watch out for this guy, Andre Muniz. He is going to be a problem in this division. He's moving up the ranks very quickly. He's on a win streak, and he's had some nasty submissions of his own. He broke Jacare Souza's arm, and when you break Jacare's arm, I mean, you're pretty damn good at grappling. I'll put it that way. Now, moving on to the prelims, we had Duplessis taking on Tavares. Duplessis got the decision victory. It was a pretty impressive win. Tavares, always a very hard guy in the middleweight division. He's been in the top 15, top 10 for such a long time, and Duplessis to get that victory. I think he's definitely making his way up the middleweight rankings. He's a very exciting fighter. He was pressuring Tavares a lot. Almost to the point where he was kind of putting himself in danger. So if he's going to face, the top welterweights in this division, he's got to kind of be a little bit more careful. He was kind of going in there a little, quick, and he was going in there with his chin up, and he's just going to be very careful when he starts to get to these high level middleweights, because he will get caught. The next fight was Ian Garry taking on Gabe Green. Ian Garry got the decision win. He moves to 10-0. Again, Garry, he is a welterweight prospect to watch out for. He's got amazing speed. His hand speed was insane. Some of the fastest speed probably in this welterweight division. So keep an eye on Garry. The more, he's going to be moving up. So he's going to be getting, harder competition, so hopefully he shines. He definitely looked really good, and he looks polished. He's got that speed, and let's see where he can take it from there. Then we had another welterweight fight. We had Jim Miller taking on Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Jim Miller got the submission in the second round, and Donald Cowboy Cerrone did retire after the fight. It's very, very sad to see him go, but he said a very interesting comment. He said, he knew he had to retire, before that Conor McGregor fight. And then he was just kind of in the motions, to keep fighting. And so, it definitely makes sense. He definitely retired at the right time. This was a fun matchup, him and Jim Miller. They had already fought before. So this was a great fight to go out on. And, he said he's going to go be a movie star. So, hey, go be a movie star, Cowboy. It's much better than getting, your face punched in for a living. He's been doing this for so long. So, big respect to Cerrone. And, moving on to the prelim main event, we had Brad Riddell taking on Jalen Turner, and Jalen Turner got the quick submission. It was a very impressive win. He rocked Riddell, and then he jumped on the submission right away, and he got the submission. Jalen Turner, he is a lightweight to keep your eye on as well, because, he made his debut against Luque at welterweight, and I think that just says a lot about him. To make a debut against a killer like that, that's insane. But ever since he's moved down to lightweight, he's been really good, and now he is in that top 15 ranking. So he's definitely going to be getting a step up in competition, but I think he's up for the task. He looked really, really good in his fight. Moving on to the main card, we kind of had a bummer. I was really excited for this fight. Pedro Munoz and Sean O'Malley. The first round, I think I would give the first round to Munoz. But then in the second, O'Malley pokes him accidentally in the eye, and his eye shuts up, and, it's a no contest. So, that was a real bummer. I was really looking for Sean O'Malley to kind of prove that he belonged as a ranked fighter. I don't think they're gonna run this one back. I just don't see a need. I think you can just have Sean O'Malley, fight somebody else in the top 15. I'm not sure if they're gonna run this back. I mean, if they did, I wouldn't be mad. But just me personally, they don't necessarily have to run this one back. But it was a close fight, and like I said, I'll give Munoz that first round on O'Malley. But in my opinion, it seemed like O'Malley was kind of starting to heat up a little bit in the striking, but again, he accidentally poked him in the eye. It's a no contest, so it is what it is. The next fight we had was Robbie Lawler taking on Bryan Barberena, and Barberena got it done. He finished Robbie Lawler in the second round, and Robbie Lawler looked so good in the first round. He was piecing up Barberena. Barberena was a bloody mess, all cuts on his face, but you got to give it to Barberena. He's a gamer, man. He is gonna push until he can't push anymore, and big props to him for coming back. It's not easy to come back with a guy like Lawler standing across the cage from you. So Barberena got that stoppage win, and this was one of the most interesting fights of the night. Sean Strickland and Alex Pereira. I picked Strickland to win because I thought that he was going to work behind his jab and grapple, and he didn't grapple at all. He just stood in front of Pereira and made it a kickboxing match, which was stupid because Strickland, he's got grappling, he's got decent wrestling, at least even just try to take him down once. He didn't even try to take him down once. It was a kickboxing match. And when you're going against one of the best, probably the best kickboxer in the world in Pereira, you can't just stand in front of him and make it a kickboxing fight, so Sean Strickland got knocked out clean. I mean, he was walking forward with his hands down. You just can't do that against Pereira. You really can't. This guy is literally made of stone. When he punches people, they go limp, and Sean Strickland went limp, and oh my God, it was brutal. He caught him. Strickland got up quick, and then he caught him again, and then while Strickland was falling back, he got him again, and the ref stopped it there. Perfect stoppage, obviously. Strickland had no idea where he was. He got up and was protesting and couldn't even walk straight. So obviously he was in a bad state. But Alex Pereira is a scary, scary man, and he's that was the number one contender fight. So he's gonna be taking on Izzy. Then we're going to get to the co-main event. I was so excited for this fight. I was looking forward to it almost more than the main event. And Alexander Volkanovski just outclassed Max Holloway all 5 rounds. It was 50-45s across the scorecards. Alexander Volkanovski is the best featherweight in the world. And, to do that to Max Holloway is just so impressive, and it was just a masterful performance. Really, he busted up Max so bad. He didn't drop Max, so Max's streak is still alive. But Max is just so tough, and he just kept coming forward. He was all bloodied up, all busted. He had like 2 cuts above his eye, but Max was not deterred. He just couldn't really get any clean shots on Volk. But oh my God, Volkanovski, man, whew, he is so accurate with his strikes. It's impressive, his precision, his power, and I picked him to win this fight because he's just been getting better with every fight, and it seems like he's really he's just a different fighter in each of his fights, and I think he's just on a different level right now. and he said he was gonna, he wanted to move up to lightweight and get the double champ status. He deserves that 100%. He should go do that. Again, it was just a masterful performance by Alexander Volkanovski. And he has some interesting comments after the fight. So I guess before their second fight, USADA woke him up like halfway through his sleep and really threw him off. And USADA, man, what the... for those who don't know, USADA is the drug testing company that the UFC uses, and they have to know the fighters' locations, and, the fighters have to update them on where they are at all times so that they can test them wherever they are, and they can get in real trouble if they don't give their location or if they forget or something. So USADA, they woke him up like at 3 a.m, halfway through his sleep, and then I guess he tried to take some melatonin to go back to sleep, and he woke up super groggy. And he said, he didn't want to mention that before this third fight. So, that's just another little tidbit that he added that maybe kind of says something about that second fight. Maybe it wasn't 100%. Moving on to this main event now, a lot of criticism against Adesanya. Adesanya won by a decision against Jared Cannonier. Izzy was on the, Izzy did his thing, and Cannonier, he came in well prepared and he was in great shape. But Cannonier just wasn't really that aggressive. Not as aggressive as a lot of his other past fights, really. I think he really respected Adesanya's striking and kicking, so he didn't want to rush in there and get caught with something. But yeah, it wasn't really like that exciting of a fight, but you can't blame Adesanya for real. Like, what do you want Adesanya to do? Do you want him to go in there and rush a guy like Jared Cannonier and get knocked out, and then he's criticized for losing, So it's like, if he does one thing, he gets criticized. So it's a lose for him most of the time. But Adesanya, again, it's kind of like Yoel Romero. It takes two to dance. You can't have an amazing fight when one fighter, isn't coming forward. But you can't blame Cannonier either, because it's just, you're going against an elite level kickboxer. You don't want to rush in there and get caught with something, So, I just think people kind of have to realize that it's a cage fight. People's lives and their health are at risk. They're going to be careful. Like, I understand if two fighters are just laying on each other, but Adesanya was working his jab. Whenever Cannonier did get close, Adesanya pieced him up. And so Cannonier stepped back, and then we kind of restarted that whole, Cannonier just kind of standing there and not really doing much. Like I said, he did try to get, close to Izzy, but, Izzy's he's got precision striking, so it's just super hard for somebody to get really in on him. But like I said earlier, Pereira, he won against Strickland, so it's going to be Adesanya versus Pereira. I hope this is going to be a good fight. It's two kickboxers, so I wonder if we're going to see another kickboxing match or not. But Pereira's 2-0 against Izzy in kickboxing. He beat Izzy by decision, and then he knocked him out cold, I think, in their second fight. So, Izzy didn't hide from him. He said, I know who's next. It's Pereira. So, that's an exciting fight. I hope we can see that fight real soon. So I'm really excited for that fight. So, it's almost like they're doing a trilogy fight. They're almost doing like a trilogy fight, but it's just in mixed martial arts, not in the kickboxing ring. So that's going to be a very interesting and exciting matchup. So I'm going to, you got to keep your eyes peeled for that matchup when they announce it, but it's probably going to be a little bit because both fighters did fight on the same card. So, and they had her come out and watch the main event. So the UFC knew what they were doing. They want these two guys to fight, and they are going to fight. So I think that's great for the UFC, and I think that's great for us as the fans. And that wraps up the UFC 276. That wraps up that card, and now we're going to move on to some PFL. All right, and now we are on to PFL. This was their last regular season card until the playoffs. So let's get into it. The first fight I want to go over is Larissa Pacheco. She is She is a dominant fighter. She beat Fabian, and I think she's gonna end up facing Kayla Harrison again. I think that's gonna be that finals matchup for that women's lightweight bracket. She's just a beast. Her striking's on point. She's so powerful. She's such a dynamic fighter. So she and Kayla Harrison will probably see each other again. Then we move on to the next fight that I want to cover. We got Nurmagomedov Kurnov. He had a ridiculous knockout against Taylor. Whew, it was insane. I think it was a back fist that knocked out Taylor. Magomed Kurnov. He was the PFL welterweight champion in 2018, I think. So he's a former champ, and this was his first fight of this season. And then now moving on, we had Ray Cooper III taking on Cooper. It was Cooper versus Cooper, but Ray Cooper III got the job done quickly, violently. He was just winging power shots right away, and that is what we love to see out of Ray Cooper III. Unfortunately, he's not going to be eligible for the PFL playoffs, but he leaves this season on a good note. You cannot forget about Ray Cooper III. Let me just tell you about that. He's a welterweight that is a problem. He's got power. He's got amazing striking. And let's move on to the co-main event where we have Rory MacDonald taking on Sabu Sai. And Sai got the job done. I don't know. Rory kind of looked a little slow, I feel. But he is still going to be in the playoffs, I believe. But, I don't know. It kind of seemed like a little off fight for him. He did try to initiate his grappling, but Sai, he's long, he's lengthy. He kind of just, he didn't really engage in the grappling with MacDonald, and he kept the fight at a distance in that standing, and he got the job done. And moving on to the main event, Kayla Harrison taking on Caitlin Young. It was a pretty quick fight. Kayla Harrison got Young down to the ground, and Harrison, she is so strong. And, she got her in a very vulnerable position and started landing strikes, and, the fight was stopped. So Kayla Harrison, she moves on to the playoffs. And as I said, it's probably going to be her in the finals against Pacheco. That is my prediction. And now we are going to preview this upcoming UFC card. All right, and looking at this UFC card, I'm going to go over a couple fights that I think will be, pretty good. The first fight is at middleweight. We've got Cody Brundage taking on Tresean Gore. I think that's going to be a good fight. Gore obviously was on The Ultimate Fighter. He lost, his UFC debut. So, let's see how he bounces back. Then we also have Cynthia Calvillo taking on Nina Nunez. In the women's flyweight division, we got Antonia Shevchenko taking on Courtney Casey. That's also in the women's flyweight division. Then moving on to this main card, it's a pretty good main card. Unfortunately, Jamie Pickett's fight is canceled. Then we have Michael Johnson taking on Jamie Malarkey. That's going to be a striker's delight. I mean, Michael Johnson, his last fight, he put on a great performance and he finished his opponent. And Jamie Malarkey, he's not afraid to trade. He is not afraid to take a punch, to give one. So hopefully this fight is as entertaining as I think it will be. Then we have a heavyweight matchup. We got Jared Vanderaa and Chase Sherman taking on each other. We have Douglas Silva de Andrade taking on Said Nurmagomedov. That's in the bantamweight division. And then for this middleweight co-main event, we have Borrallo taking on Petsolan. I think I said that correctly. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. But Borrallo, he's from the Contender Series. His UFC debut was it kind of ended in a weird way. I think Barallo committed an unintentional foul, and it might have been an eye poke or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the fight was stopped prematurely. But they did enough to get a decision. So, Barallo did win his debut by decision, but it was just a technical decision. The fight was stopped, I think, in the middle of the third round or something like that. Then, this main event's really intriguing for this lightweight division. There's always a lot of movement in the lightweight division. There's always, you have your mainstays of the lightweight division, but now there's this new generation of lightweights coming up, and it's really exciting to see them take on, the guys who have been here for a while. So we have Rafael Dos Anjos taking on Rafael Fiziev. Fiziev, he's a great fighter. Go watch some of his highlights. Go watch that kick that he dodged like the Matrix. He literally leaned back and dodged a kick like he was in the Matrix movie. It was ridiculous. And, Dos Anjos, obviously, an elite fighter. His last fight was against Moicano, and that was a very entertaining fight. Moicano, he brought it, and Dos Anjos, won by decision in that fight. So it's going to be interesting to see how he handles Fiziev. Fiziev, he's a very technical striker. But he's also his movement is so good, and he's just bouncing up and down inside the octagon. So he's never stops moving. So I like to see if Rafael Dos Anjos, if he can kind of take that fight to the ground and maybe employ some of his jiu-jitsu. But I don't know if he's gonna really be able to get Fiziev down, because again, he's just so elusive. He's always moving. He's on the tips of his toes, bouncing up and down. So that's going to be a very interesting fight, and that is that whole UFC card for this upcoming weekend. So, if you can catch that card, definitely tune in. There are some fights, as I said, that are worth tuning in. And just another thing I wanted to talk about quick. Did anybody see Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier yelling at each other? Well, it was more of Poirier yelling at Chandler, but Poirier was like really, really pissed. I saw the video. I retweeted it on my Twitter if you want to go look at that, at the video, but Chandler looked really pissed for some reason. I don't know the context. I just saw the video and was like, holy crap, like what's going on with these two? Chandler did not call out Poirier. He called out McGregor, and he called out Oliveira, but he didn't call out Poirier. So I don't know if that has to do, I don't know if he was offended that he didn't call him out, or maybe he thinks that he's ducking him. I have no idea, but hey, that would be a very, very fun fight to watch. Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier, come on. Those guys are legends in the game. You know that they're both going to bring it if they do fight each other. But yeah, it caught me a little off guard. I didn't realize that Poirier had beef with Chandler, but I guess he does. So I don't know how that's going to go, but I mean, hopefully it leads to a fight. And that is going to do it for this episode of the KO Podcast. Thank you so, so much for taking the time out of your busy day to listen in. If you want to stay in touch with the podcast, we now have an Instagram. Yes, we have an Instagram. It is the KO_podcast. That is on Instagram. And then Twitter is the KO Podcast with Tyler Russo. So we are on Twitter, Instagram, we're trying to get on as many social platforms as possible, so we will be popping up on that. And again, thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe. Bye-bye.